Evan Parker walked through the corridors of the Liberty Arc space station, his boots clicking softly on the metal floor. He had been assigned a new duty, one that he had never thought he would receive so early in his career. The Valari princess, Lyra, was visiting the station for diplomatic talks, and he, a young human security officer, was to guard her every step. The orders were simple: protect her, keep her inside the secure quarters, and prevent any incidents that could damage relations between humans and the Valari Empire. In theory, it sounded simple. In practice, Evan already sensed it would be anything but. He paused outside the grand chamber where the princess was to stay. The door slid open smoothly with a soft hiss, revealing a large room filled with alien furniture and strange lights that shimmered softly across the walls. And there she was. Princess Lyra was unlike any being Evan had ever seen. Her skin had a faint, iridescent glow, and her eyes were a deep violet, filled with intelligence and curiosity. Her hair moved slightly as if it were alive, though Evan quickly reminded himself to stay professional. She turned her gaze toward him, her lips curling into a small, playful smile. "You must be Evan," she said, her voice musical but clear. "The human guard. I have heard a little about you." "Yes, Princess," Evan replied, bowing slightly. "I am assigned to ensure your safety while you are on this station." She tilted her head, studying him for a moment. "Ensure my safety? That sounds so serious. Are humans always this serious?" she asked with a teasing tone. Evan shifted uncomfortably. "It is my duty, Princess. My job is to keep you safe." "That is all?" Her smile widened and she stepped closer. "I see. Then you will follow me everywhere, yes? That could be fun." She glanced around the room, then leaned slightly toward him. "Do humans get bored easily?" I suppose some do, Princess," he answered, trying to maintain his composure. He noticed how she watched him, how her violet eyes seemed to pierce into him, as if she were seeing more than just his uniform and his expression. "Good," she whispered. "I like someone who is alert." Then she laughed softly and twirled away. Evan straightened, realizing that his first day on duty had already begun in a way he had not expected. For the next hour, Evan tried to establish a routine. He followed her carefully as she walked through the room, touching objects gently, examining decorations, and asking questions about how the humans on the station lived. She seemed curious about everything, from the simple metal chairs to the way the lights changed color in the corridor. Evan answered her questions politely, though he noticed a mischievous glint in her eyes. She seemed less interested in the answers and more in observing him. Then, just as he thought he had her attention, she disappeared. At first, Evan thought she had gone to another part of the room. He called her name softly, but there was no response. He checked the doors and found them still locked. Then he noticed a small panel on the wall, partially hidden behind a decorative light. With a click, it slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel. Evan's heart sank. The princess had escaped. He hurried down the corridor, following the faint hum of her presence. The station was large, with multiple levels and sectors, but he had memorized the maps for his patrols. Still, the thought that a Valari princess had slipped past him was worrying. He moved quickly but carefully, his senses alert. The tunnel led him into the main human sector of the station. He paused at the end, listening. There was laughter, soft, melodic, and unmistakably hers. He followed it, rounding a corner, and found her sitting on one of the benches in the crew lounge, surrounded by human staff who were looking at her in awe and confusion. "Well," she said, her violet eyes meeting his as he arrived, "you are fast, but not fast enough." She smirked and waved at the humans around her. "I am learning so much about you all. You are fascinating creatures, really." Evan frowned. "Princess, you were supposed to stay in your quarters." "You cannot wander the station like this. It is dangerous." "Dangerous?" she asked, tilting her head. "I do not see any danger here. The humans seem friendly enough." She glanced at him, and the playful tone returned. "Are you afraid, Evan? Or are you worried about your precious duty?" Evan tightened his grip on his communicator. "It is not a question of fear. It is my responsibility to protect you. That means I must insist that you return to your room immediately." She laughed softly, a sound that echoed lightly in the lounge. "You humans are so serious. Must everything always be duty and rules?" She hopped off the bench and began walking toward the observation deck. Evan had no choice but to follow, keeping a close distance, his eyes scanning for any real threats. In his heart, he knew that she would never stay put voluntarily. As they reached the observation deck, the view of the stars outside took Evan's breath away. The station floated silently above a blue and green planet, the curvature visible even from this height. The princess leaned against the railing, watching the planets and moons pass by. "Humans call this beautiful," she said softly. "But you live here, and perhaps you do not notice it often. Do you feel small when you look at the stars, Evan?" Sometimes," he admitted. "But duty makes us focus on the tasks at hand, rather than the view." She smiled, her violet eyes glinting with curiosity. "How dull, to always focus on duty. I think you are interesting, Evan Parker. Very interesting." He felt a slight blush creep onto his face. "Thank you, Princess. I try to do my best." "You do," she said quietly. "But sometimes I wonder, what do humans do when they are not busy with duty? What makes you laugh or relax? Do you have friends, hobbies, pleasures?" She leaned closer to the railing, and Evan had to remind himself to keep a professional distance. I read sometimes, or exercise. I try to maintain focus," he said, unsure how to answer without revealing too much personal information. She tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "And yet, you are serious all the time. I think you need a lesson in fun, Evan. Perhaps I will teach you." Before he could respond, the alarms blared across the station. Red lights flashed. Evan's heart raced, but Lyra did not move. She stood silently, watching the stars. "What is happening?" she asked. "Unknown," Evan said quickly. "But we need to return to your quarters immediately." She nodded, but not in fear. In curiosity. Her violet eyes shone brightly as they moved quickly back through the corridors. Evan noticed how her small steps were nimble, almost like she had done this before. Indeed, it became clear to him that this was not her first escape. The princess moved with grace, and Evan had to run to keep up. When they reached the quarters, she paused at the door, looking back at him. "Do you get angry when I run away?" she asked softly. "I am not angry," he replied. "I am responsible for your safety. That is not a matter of anger." "But you do care," she whispered, stepping inside her room. "I can feel it. Humans are funny. You worry for others even when you do not know them well." Evan sighed, lowering his head. "I only do what I am trained to do. That is all." She laughed again, a soft, musical sound. "We shall see, Evan Parker. We shall see. Perhaps you will be more than just a guard." Then she moved to her window, watching the stars. Evan stayed near the door, unsure of what to do. He realized with a mixture of relief and concern that his assignment would be much more complicated than he had imagined. The first day was over, and yet it had only just begun. The princess had already escaped multiple times, testing his patience and his vigilance. He could not tell whether she was innocent, mischievous, or simply curious. All he knew was that guarding her would be a challenge unlike any other he had faced. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a strange excitement, a sense that the days ahead would be dangerous, thrilling, and unlike anything he had known before. As the station lights dimmed for the human night cycle, Evan remained awake in the corridor outside her quarters. He watched the soft glow of her room and wondered what she was thinking. Somewhere inside, he knew that Princess Lyra was not just any alien royalty. She was sharp, clever, and unpredictable, and he, Evan Parker, was assigned to protect her. For the first time in his life, duty felt complicated, and strangely, he did not mind it. The next morning, Evan Parker arrived early at the station's security office. He checked the latest reports and maps, planning his patrol routes. He knew Princess Lyra would not stay put for long. Her playful nature and curiosity made her unpredictable, and Evan had to be prepared. He adjusted his uniform, checked his communicator, and reminded himself to stay focused. Today, he would try to keep her closer, no matter what. He reached her quarters quietly. The door slid open, and the princess was already awake, sitting near the window and watching the distant stars. Her violet eyes sparkled as she turned toward him. "Good morning, Evan," she said softly. "Did you sleep well?" "I slept enough," he replied, careful to keep his tone professional. "And you, princess?" "I am well," she said, stretching lightly. "But I am curious. Will you follow me today? Or will you stay at your post?" "I will follow you," Evan said. He had learned his lesson. There would be no leaving her alone. She smiled, a small, mischievous smile. "Good. I have many things to show you, many things you do not know about your station and your people." As they left the quarters, Evan noticed how easily she moved through the hallways. Her steps were light, almost silent, and her presence seemed to command attention. Humans and aliens alike paused when she passed, some bowing slightly, others whispering. Evan stayed close, scanning the corridors for any real threat. But so far, the only danger seemed to be her own mischievous nature. They reached the engineering deck first. Machines hummed and hissed, and human engineers worked with precision. Lyra's eyes lit up. She leaned forward to touch a control panel, then laughed softly. "So this is what humans call engineering. I did not know your machines were so loud and interesting." Evan frowned slightly. "Princess, please do not touch the equipment. It is dangerous and delicate." She glanced at him with a playful tilt of her head. "You are serious even here? Do humans never smile?" I try to be careful," he said, shifting his weight. "You could get hurt." "Perhaps I like the risk," she replied softly. Her eyes met his for a moment, and Evan felt a strange awareness, as if she were studying him as much as he was studying her. "Tell me, Evan, do humans like to take risks? Do you ever?" He hesitated. "Sometimes, but not when it endangers others. I take risks only when necessary." She nodded thoughtfully. "Ah, you are responsible. Good. I like that." Evan could not help noticing that she spoke as if she had already decided something about him. He did not understand it, but it made him uneasy and, strangely, curious. After the engineering deck, she led him to the station's observation halls. From here, one could see the docking bays, the distant planets, and the stars stretching far into space. Lyra leaned on the railing, watching everything carefully. "Your station is beautiful," she said, "but humans walk here every day and barely look at it. Why is that?" Evan shrugged. "We get used to it. When you see something every day, it becomes normal. You stop noticing it." She laughed softly. "Then I will not get used to it. I will notice everything." They continued walking, and Lyra asked questions about every detail: the lights, the doors, the panels, the people who worked there. Evan answered as best as he could, trying to stay calm while realizing that she had a strange way of making him feel exposed. By mid-afternoon, he thought she would finally return to her quarters. Instead, she disappeared again. This time, she did not just leave quietly. She slipped past the security checkpoints, her form moving so quickly and silently that Evan barely noticed her vanish. He hurried after her, running through the corridors faster than he had before. He followed faint sounds of laughter and whispered words. She had gone to the cafeteria, where the humans were having lunch. She had seated herself at a table, speaking to a small group with such confidence that the humans seemed enchanted. Evan arrived, out of breath, and knelt slightly. "Princess, you were supposed to stay in your quarters. You cannot wander like this." She looked up at him, smiling. "But I am learning about your people. I am learning what humans do when they are not busy or working. Is that not important?" "Yes," he admitted, "but it is also dangerous. The station is large and threats can appear anywhere. You could be in danger." She leaned closer, her violet eyes locking onto his. "I trust you, Evan. That is why I escape when you are near. I wanted to see if you would follow me, if you would come for me no matter what." Evan's heart skipped a beat. He had never expected that. You planned this?" "Of course," she said softly. "You are my guard. I need to know if you are reliable, and I wanted to see your reactions." Evan exhaled slowly, feeling a mixture of relief and concern. He realized then that her escapes were not only playful, but deliberate. She was testing him, seeing how much he cared about her safety, and perhaps judging him in ways he could not fully understand. "Princess, you should not do this alone," he said firmly. "Even if you trust me, the station has dangers you cannot see." "I know," she replied quietly, "but humans are different from my people. You think carefully. You act quickly. You do not panic." She smiled again. "That is why I like having you near. You are steady." Evan felt a warmth in his chest that he could not explain. Her words were strange, almost flattering, but he had no right to feel pride. She was his responsibility, and he could not let personal feelings interfere. They left the cafeteria and returned to the corridors. As they walked, she continued her quiet questions. "Do humans always follow orders so strictly? Do you think about rules every day?" "I do," he said. "Rules exist for a reason. They protect people and keep things organized." "Ah," she said softly, "that is very human. I like that. But rules are not everything. Sometimes curiosity is more important. Sometimes risk teaches lessons that rules cannot." Evan remained silent, realizing she was speaking from experience. She had probably encountered far more dangers than he could imagine, and yet she trusted him to follow her and to protect her from them. By evening, the station lights dimmed for the human night cycle. Evan thought she would finally retire to her quarters, but as he led her back, she suddenly stopped and turned toward him. "Evan," she said softly, "do you ever think about what it means to protect someone? Not just to follow orders, but truly protect? To care for them, even when it is hard?" He hesitated. "Yes, I believe that is part of duty. Part of being responsible." She stepped closer, her violet eyes watching him intently. "I think you understand more than most humans. That is why I have tested you today. And tomorrow I will continue to test you. You are important to me." Evan felt a jolt at her words. He could not explain the feeling, but it was strong. She was playful, curious, and clever. But there was a seriousness in her voice that made him realize that she truly relied on him. Her safety was not just a duty, it was a trust. As they reached her quarters, she paused at the door. "Do not think that my tests are over," she said softly. "I will escape again, and you will follow me. That is how we learn about each other." Evan nodded slowly, his mind racing. "I understand, Princess. I will follow you no matter where you go." She smiled, a small, satisfied smile. "Good. That is what I wanted to hear." As the door closed, Evan stood outside for a moment, watching the soft glow of her room. He knew the days ahead would be difficult. She was clever, unpredictable, and daring. He had never guarded anyone like her before, and yet, he felt a strange sense of purpose, a determination that went beyond duty. Princess Lyra was testing him, challenging him, and perhaps in her own way, trusting him. And Evan Parker knew one thing clearly. He would not fail her. No matter what dangers came, no matter how mischievous she became, he would follow her, protect her, and ensure that she was safe. The first real challenge had not yet arrived, but Evan felt ready. The princess had shown him that guarding her was not just about rules or orders. It was about understanding, trust, and courage. And somehow he sensed that their journey together was only beginning. The next day started quietly, but Evan Parker knew it was only an illusion. He had learned from the previous days that Princess Lyra's curiosity and mischief could lead to unexpected situations. He checked his communicator and reviewed the station's security protocols. Every door, every hallway, every patrol route had to be monitored carefully. He had to be ready for anything. When he arrived at her quarters, Lyra was already awake, sitting near the window and watching the stars. She turned toward him and smiled. "Good morning, Evan," she said softly. "Did you sleep well?" "I slept enough, Princess," he said, keeping his tone steady. "And you?" "I am well," she said, stretching her arms. "But I have plans today. Will you follow me?" "I will follow you wherever you go," he said, remembering his promise. She smiled, a small, teasing smile. "Good. I like that. I want to see how you handle surprises." As they left the quarters, Evan noticed how the station seemed unusually quiet. The hum of machinery and the soft footsteps of crew members were the only sounds. He felt uneasy. Something in the air did not feel right. Lyra led him to the observation deck first. She leaned against the railing, watching the stars. "Your station is beautiful," she said softly. "I wonder what humans think when they see this every day. Do you ever feel small, Evan?" "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I focus on my duty. That keeps me steady." She tilted her head, watching him closely. "Humans are interesting. You think carefully. You act with purpose. I like that." Evan felt a strange warmth in his chest at her words, but he forced himself to remain professional. He reminded himself that his job was to guard her, not to be distracted by compliments. After a few minutes, Lyra glanced toward the corridors. "Shall we explore?" she asked. "I want to see more of your station today." Evan followed, keeping a careful distance. He noticed her small, nimble steps and the way she moved through the hallways as if she knew every corner. Despite her playful nature, there was a sharp awareness in her movements. They reached the engineering deck where human engineers were working on the station's power systems. Lyra leaned over a control panel, her fingers brushing lightly over the surface. "Your machines are fascinating," she said softly. "So much energy, so much complexity. Humans must be clever to maintain this." Evan stepped forward. "Princess, please be careful. The equipment is delicate and dangerous." She smiled at him. "You worry too much, Evan Parker, but I like that. You care." Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and the hum of machinery changed into a tense, urgent sound. Evan's heart raced. Something was wrong. "Princess, stay close to me," he said firmly, grabbing her hand and pulling her behind him. "What is happening?" she asked, her violet eyes wide but calm. "Unknown," he replied. "We need to move to a secure location immediately." Evan led her quickly through the corridors, scanning for any threats. As they ran, he noticed the crew members moving with urgency, some locking down doors, others preparing defense systems. Something had attacked the station, something dangerous. They reached a small security office, where a console displayed the incoming threat. Evan's heart sank. A group of alien ships, black and spiky, were approaching the station rapidly. The display identified them as the Kreth Swarm, a dangerous faction known for hunting Valari royalty. Lyra looked at the display silently. "I knew they were coming," she said softly. "You knew?" Evan asked, shocked. "Princess, why didn't you warn anyone?" "I had to test you," she replied quietly, "to see if you would follow me, protect me, and stay calm. I trust you, Evan. That is why I did not act earlier." Evan stared at her in disbelief. He had thought her escapes were playful, mischievous, maybe even teasing. But now he realized she had been planning, preparing, and testing him all along. She trusted him more than anyone else on the station. The station shook as the Kreth ships opened fire. Evan shielded Lyra with his body, guiding her to a safer area. The corridor walls were dented and scorched, and smoke began to fill the air. He could hear the alarms blaring in his ears, but he focused on one thing, keeping her alive. "Stay close," he said, his voice firm. "We will get through this together." Lyra nodded. "I know you will protect me," she said softly. "I am not afraid, Evan. You are here." They moved quickly through maintenance corridors, using routes that Lyra had memorized during her previous escapes. She pointed out hidden passages and emergency exits. Evan realized then that her mischievous behavior had a purpose. She had been mapping the station for just this moment, ensuring that they could escape if danger arrived. As they reached a junction, Kreth soldiers appeared, blocking their path. Evan drew his weapon and positioned himself in front of the princess. "Princess, stay behind me," he said, his tone steady despite the fear rising in his chest. Lyra raised her hands, and a soft glow surrounded her fingers. A wave of energy struck the Kreth soldiers, throwing them back. Evan's eyes widened. She was powerful, far stronger than he had imagined. "Are you hurt?" he asked quickly, keeping his weapon ready. "No," she said, her voice calm. "But we must move." They ran through a narrow maintenance tunnel, the sounds of battle echoing behind them. Evan led the way, checking every corner and listening for threats. Lyra followed closely, her presence a mix of strength and grace. Finally, they reached a small shuttle bay. One of the emergency craft was still docked and ready for launch. Evan helped Lyra inside, and she took the pilot's seat, her hands moving with confidence over the controls. "You can fly this?" he asked, impressed. "I can," she said simply. "I wanted to see if you would trust me. I have trained for this." Evan nodded. "I trust you, Princess. Let's go." The shuttle lifted off just as Kreth ships began to breach the main docking area. Evan held on tightly, keeping close to Lyra as she maneuvered through the chaos. Explosions shook the station behind them, but she remained calm, guiding the craft safely away. As they drifted in space, Evan finally allowed himself to breathe. "That was intense," he said, his voice shaky. Lyra smiled, her violet eyes meeting his. "You did well, Evan Parker. You stayed calm, protected me, and followed me even when danger was near. That is why I trust you." Evan felt a strange mix of pride and relief. He had faced danger before, but never like this. Never with someone so powerful, so unpredictable, and so dependent on him. "You could have left me behind," she continued softly. "Many would have, but you did not. You followed your duty, and more." Evan looked at her, unsure how to respond. Her words were kind, but they carried a weight he had not expected. I could not leave you, Princess. It is my duty. And I promised." She reached out and touched his arm gently. "I know," she said, "and that is why I have chosen you. You are not just a guard. You are someone I can rely on." Evan felt a warmth in his chest he could not explain. He had never been thanked like this, never trusted in such a way. And yet he knew this trust came with responsibility, with danger, and with challenges he had not yet faced. As the shuttle drifted toward a human patrol fleet, Lyra turned her gaze back to him. "We are safe for now," she said softly. "But the Kreth will not give up easily." "You must remain vigilant." "I will," he replied firmly. "I will protect you, Princess, no matter what comes next." She smiled, a small, satisfied smile. "Good. That is what I wanted to hear. And Evan, thank you. For trusting yourself, for trusting me, and for staying by my side." Evan looked at her, realizing that the princess had not only tested him, but had also taught him something important. Trust, courage, and care were more than words. They were actions. And he had proven himself worthy, not just as a human guard, but as someone who could face the unknown and protect those who depended on him. As the shuttle approached the fleet, Evan felt a mix of relief and determination. The battle was over for now, but he knew it was only the beginning. Princess Lyra was clever, powerful, and unpredictable. The challenges ahead would be greater, and the stakes higher. But Evan Parker was ready. He had faced danger, he had protected the princess, and he had earned her trust. And somehow, deep inside, he felt that this was only the start of something far larger than duty alone. He looked at her, and she smiled back, a quiet understanding passing between them. They were no longer just guard and princess. They were partners, facing the unknown together.